let's talk about the ICE crackdown. Kate, an ICE agent killed a woman in Minneapolis. Two other people were shot in a separate incident. They were injured, and that took place in Oregon. But getting back to the shooting and the killing of Renee Good in Minneapolis, this is how the Secretary for Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, characterized that killing, and this was in an interview with CNN. Let's listen.
If you look at what the definition of domestic terrorism is, it completely fits the situation on the ground. This individual, as you saw in the video that we released just 48 hours after this incident, showed that this officer was hit by her vehicle. She weaponized it.
So, Kate, what is your response to that?
That's really maddening to watch her doubling down on the lie. I've seen the video. I've seen the video from many angles. I know most of us have at this point. I think one of the things, other than the outright murder of Renee Nicole Good, is the way that Kristi Noem immediately, only minutes after, when she was many states away, came on and spoke to the American public as if she knew what had happened and told lies about the event. And it's very, very clear that this agent, who had his own sensitivities because a prior incident, was out there circling Renee's car, and if you watch the video closely, he moves his cell phone as he's on the passenger side from his right hand to his left hand so that he can draw his weapon. He puts himself in front of her vehicle, which is law enforcement 101. You do not do that as a police officer, put yourself in front of a vehicle. And then he shot her 3 times in the head and swore an expletive about her as her car was careening into a pole. It's very clear that this was a murder, and that is just as shocking as the response from the administration. One would expect that an administrative official would come on media after an event like that and say, this is a very unfortunate incident. We will launch an investigation. We don't know precisely what happened. There's video to review and investigation to be completed, and we're not going to lie to the American people about what happened. But that's not what they did. Kristi Noem lied to us. The president lied to us, and we all have eyes. We all can see the video, and I think that's one of the things that's going to come back in consequence to this administration, is when they try to convince us about something that's so blatantly a lie. It's not going to go over, and it isn't going over well with the American public.
Now, Kate, there is an investigation underway, but when we see officials in this administration rush to the microphones after a killing like this and draw their own conclusions about it, effectively saying, look, we know what happened, case closed, doesn't that actually prejudice the investigation?
Absolutely, it prejudices the investigation, and we all see it for what it is. And I will also say that this is a very predictable consequence of the actions of ICE. We know that these cities, these localities like Minneapolis, do not want ICE to come in, that there are protesters, and when they have difficulties hiring and they shorten the training timeline of these ICE agents and they put them out on the streets and they're untrained and they have guns and there are protesters present and these law enforcement officers do not understand or know how to escalate, this is what happens. And anybody with 2 brain cells saw this coming a mile away, and this was such an unfortunate and avoidable event. And unfortunately, the administration is doubling down when what we would expect them to do is at least express some regret. I haven't even heard, and maybe they have, I have not heard an official from the administration say, this was an unfortunate event and we're sorry for her family and her 6-year-old child, who probably right now as we speak is crying for his mom and wondering where she is.
Kate, President Trump campaigned on removing undocumented migrants, but if we look at how this immigration crackdown is being carried out, it seems that the legal process has been abandoned in many instances. I mean, we have cases where many people, in fact, there are thousands of people in the United States who applied for asylum. They are waiting for their cases to be adjudicated. They're waiting for the process to go through. Yet, if they are stopped by ICE, in many instances they are arrested and also deported. And in many instances, people are being deported and not given access to lawyers. They are, by law, I would imagine, entitled to legal representation, aren't they?
They are entitled to access to attorneys, but rights are being violated and constitutional rights are being violated across the board. I am an immigration lawyer in Texas. I represent people who go to court hearings and they go to their ICE check-ins, and I can confirm it is absolutely true that people who are on the pathway to legal status, they are following the rules, they're doing everything right, they show up for their appointments, and they are getting detained. I have a client named Carmen who was separated from her U.S. citizen husband and her 6 U.S. citizen daughters, was ultimately detained for 2 months and deported. I have Venezuelan clients who go to their ICE check-ins, a father, a mother, 2 young daughters, ages 4 and 10. This entire family followed the legal process and they were separated in detention. These 2 little girls were sent to one detention, mom was sent somewhere else, dad was sent somewhere else. The studies and the statistics show us the vast majority of people who are being detained and deported have no criminal history whatsoever. So what Trump told everyone he was going to do during his campaign is not the way that it's playing out. Our numbers are at the highest that they've ever been in ICE detention. We had more people die in ICE detention last year than we ever have before, and it is heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. It's enraging and it's maddening. And that's why we see cities like Minneapolis respond to ICE coming in. The police forces in these cities, they want to have a good relationship with the community. They are all about public safety. They don't want to enforce ICE policies. And if ICE was behaving and they weren't going in and kidnapping people off the streets and committing human rights abuses, they wouldn't be experiencing the pushback that they are.
Right.
So ICE needs to behave and actually go after people who really are dangerous criminals, and that's not what's happening, and anybody who tells you otherwise is flat out lying.